Increasing your practice's visibility. That's obviously what we're going to talk about today. I'm not going to waste time on an introduction really, but I at least want to introduce myself. My name is Matt. I'm a therapist in private practice. I own a group practice, and I also like to make videos just like this to help therapists start, run, and grow private practices. I also host a consultation community where you can interact with me directly. I'll leave links to all that down below in the description. And also you can feel free to browse my YouTube channel. Tons of videos that I've been making for a while now, all about private practice. With that out of the way, let's jump right in. You can see I have my screen shared right over here. And we're going to be talking about boosting your practice's visibility. This is going to be tied in with marketing and really growing a practice. All right. Now, there's a lot to talk about today. And so you're going to see me looking this way. It's odd. It's opposite of your screen. When I look this way, I'm actually looking at that screen share. And when I look this way, I'm looking away from it and talking to the camera directly. But yeah, let's just dive in. So the first thing we actually have to kind of think about, I had this in order here, is where do you want people to look? Now, what I mean by that question is, what is the main thing that you are marketing, that you want eyes on? For most of the people watching this video, it's going to be your clinical practice, right? You're probably looking to grow your practice. You want more clients to know about your practice, your clinical practice, right? Whether that's virtual or in person, you as a therapist, like your therapy is what you want people to know about, right? Now, just to kind of put it into perspective, some people are maybe selling products. So maybe they're trying to have people look at books that they've written or other content that they've made. But it is important to think about what exactly are you trying to get people's eyes on? Okay. Now, let's just imagine, for example, it is a book or something like that, right? You'll probably want to drive people towards Amazon where they can buy your book. If it's a therapy practice, you're most likely wanting to drive people towards your website where they can read about your practice, where they can contact you, this kind of thing. But that's the first thing we have to kind of figure out is like, where do we want people to look? What exactly are they looking at? All right. Now, once we figure that out, we're going to move on to step 2, which you're going to see here is make it clear. Okay. Now we can make videos just on this, and perhaps I will, but what do I mean by make it clear? Let me give you a couple of examples. So if you want people to find your practice, your right, that you want them to know about your clinical practice, what exactly do you do? Who do you serve? What are your specialties? What is your clinical practice, right? It doesn't work to just say, I'm a therapist, right? What do you specialize in? What kind of therapy do you do? And we want to make this as clear as possible for the people searching out the product, right? Or the service, whatever it is that we're going to do. And it actually should take time and thought and consideration. It might even take hiring a copywriter to help you with this. But how do you make it clear what you do? Right? Because that's really what's going to draw someone in, right? Let's say they stumble across your website and they're reading the website, but they don't really get what you're saying on there. They're confused. They're not sure what specialist you are. And it's just confusing, right? Now, I know personally, I'm not a good writer. I'm not a very good communicator through writing, right? And so when I first designed my website by myself, my writing was it wasn't clear. It wasn't so concise. And then I did hire someone to help me write my website, right? This is my clinical website, because they were much better at making it clear, right? So again, just some prompting questions here. We have, what is it that you do? What are people going to get, right? So when someone signs up for your therapy practice, what are they getting? When they sign up with us, you're going to get DBT skills and tools, right? You're going to get help for ADHD, things like that. And another, again, these are just prompting questions. What exactly are they signing up for? All right. So we want to wrestle with that as well, making it as clear as possible for people. All right. And one other side note there is that when we're making it clear, it's one thing to make it clear to another clinician, right? So most clinicians can log on to my website and they'll kind of get what I'm trying to say, even if it's not perfect. But we're not trying to make it clear for clinicians. We're trying to make it clear for therapy seekers or the people that we're trying to target, right? So you have to think about it from that perspective as well. All right. Now let's actually talk about how do we make our practices visible. All right. Now this is some of these things you're going to have heard about. There's nothing that creative when it comes to marketing and making things visible. However, there's certain ways of thinking about it, and perhaps there's some things we're going to talk about that are maybe new for you. So definitely stick around, because I'm going to share with you kind of different things about each of these topics and kind of columns here. All right, but let's get the first one out of the way, which is directories. All right, for most of us as therapists, we're very familiar with directories: PsychToday, ALMA, ZocDoc, Therapy Den, and they are what they are. They're directories. They're usually a fairly consistent resource or source of referrals, especially if they're a well-established directory like PsychologyToday or ZocDoc. I would never put all my eggs in this basket, although I do encourage every therapist to at least be on a few reputable, popular directories. And when I say popular, I mean not popular among therapists, but popular among therapy seekers, right? A lot of people know about PsychologyToday. A lot of people know about ZocDoc. So to be listed there is going to make you more visible, right? If you're on a directory that is popular amongst therapy seekers, just common sense, it's more visible. So to be listed on there, I always find to be beneficial. All right, we don't need to go and list ourselves on every single directory, but at least a few that are popular. Okay. And I think the way to think about that though is like, don't hinge your entire practice on directories. Right? People get very frustrated with directories because they're inconsistent. And of course they are. They're just a directory. Okay. Networking. Now, this is another one. You're going to hear a lot of opinions about this. Some will say it's antiquated. Some will say it doesn't work. I wouldn't invest too much time into networking, like going door to door or something like that. I don't think that's a great use of time, but there's certain ways that we can market in this landscape, in 2024 that do work. Now, another thing to kind of keep in mind as I talk about these things, as your practice grows and you get more referrals, you might not need to do all these things. Okay. Maybe you pare back the networking once your practice grows. But just to get started, you need to get some people in the door. You need to get your name out there. So networking might be something you do in the beginning. So you want to be really fluid in thinking about this. But I would say that if you are thinking about being visible, at least stepping into each of these realms or thinking about each one, you want to have a wide array of places that your practice is visible, all right, where people can find you. All right. So networking. So let's think about this. What are some kind of modern ways that you can market right now in 2024 that have worked for me personally? One is Facebook groups, right? So local Facebook communities, or, a lot of times you'll get into a group and therapists will be looking for referrals for potential clients. Now, it's not going to be the greatest resource ever, but it does work. If you want to put time into responding to those, to following up on that, you could get some clients here or there. Okay. So I think that's a worthwhile endeavor, especially if you're just trying to start out. You can go to conferences, right? So if you're doing CEUs or something like that, bringing your business cards with you, again, I know some of that's a little bit antiquated, but if you're in that environment anyway for CEUs and things like that, why not do some networking? And kind of similar to the Facebook groups is the ISO requests. So ALMA has an entire section on, it means in search of, right? So a lot of people are looking for referrals. And so you might want to spend time combing through that section on the ALMA community, the ISO requests, and responding to all the ones that you feel like you can help. So I think that's that, right? Again, with the networking, I wouldn't go all in on that. But if I have some extra time, I do spend time doing things like that. And then I have this here, places in the same space. That doesn't make any sense now that I read it back, but let me just tell you what that means. So for example, I'm someone who in our practice, we work with folks who are dealing with ADHD and other symptoms. So we might, if I was going to be networking the practice, I might reach out to colleges, right? I might reach out to schools, right? Places where they're not doing therapy, but might benefit from having a connection to a therapist who specializes in ADHD, right? So you want to kind of think about the people, the institutions, the places that are kind of like in your field or your circle, right? So I don't know if you're a DBT specialist, right? So maybe you're going to reach out to, I don't know. I mean, yeah, you could do schools, right? You could do local hospitals, that kind of thing. But basically trying to get your name in the place where people would need your service, right? All right, so let's move on from networking. Social media, now I've used this as a pretty broad umbrella for a couple things. And underneath here, I don't have things like Instagram, Facebook, whatever. That's I think obvious that when we're talking about social media, we're talking about posting on a platform like Instagram, YouTube, that kind of thing. I personally like YouTube. That's where I post all my things. But people do just fine on Instagram and things like that. But again, you do want to think about like where is my target audience looking for information? Okay. You don't want to just randomly pick, but think about where your target audience is looking for information. Okay. So that's kind of the social media. But when we think about like what exactly is social media going to consist of, are you going to make videos, right? Are you going to make infographics about your specialty? Are you going to write blogs and newsletters? What exactly are you going to be producing? We can really sum up social media by calling it content creation, which I know has become this buzzword. But what exactly are you going to create for people that's of value to them? And that's really what we're trying to answer, right? And then in the social media world, again, we're kind of, everything's pointing back to your practice. So if I make a video about DBT, it's going to point back to my practice website. And the same is true for all these things. Networking, it's going back to my practice website. Directories, going back to my practice website. Or at least has my phone number, all my information about my practice, so that each of the things that we're doing will refer back to my practice, right? That's kind of the whole intention for all of this, right? So again, whatever social media you decide, my kind of beginning entry level advice would be just to pick one or two platforms, one medium. So you can do videos, infographics, whatever, and you can play around with this kind of stuff. And then try to create content that provides value to those who you're trying to reach, right? And that's going to take some trial and error. You can Google, you can ask ChatGPT about commonly asked questions in your field. There's a bunch of websites where I'll leave some links down below, where you can look up common questions people are asking. You just go on Google and start typing how to your specialty, and all these things will pop up about, what people are asking. But that's kind of social media. Again, it's the long haul for social media. Most people are not just going to go viral in one post. So it is going to be about consistency. And that's another thing about all this. These things aren't magic bullets, but over time, if you're consistent with it, these things will start to generate referrals pretty consistently. We can think about ads, whether they be on Google, Facebook, Instagram. So this is going to be the most costly method because it's going to cost you financially to make ads. And a little caveat here, I would hire a marketing company to help with this. I wouldn't just do it myself unless you have marketing experience and expertise. But this would be, in some ways, you pay more for quicker results. So if you have a Google ad that points to your website, you're going to pay for that ad and that visibility, but it's going to happen pretty quickly. Okay. And that actually leads me into the SEO section here, which SEO actually I would say blankets all this stuff. It's not just a separate entity over here, but I did separate it because it's important to talk about. But SEO basically is what's known as search engine optimization. So basically, having your website, your blog, all that stuff optimized for searchability. And if we really make that simple, it's how, it's basically creating content, writing your website, designing things so that Google starts to put your website at the top of the search results. Okay. Now this is a very complex topic. I'm not doing it justice by simplifying it like that. But when it comes to SEO and being a therapist or trying to make your practice more visible, it's a worthwhile endeavor to begin working on. Now, a couple starting points is having a website that's optimized for SEO. Large undertaking, again, I would recommend hiring a consultant or a company to help you with this, unless you have a lot of time or unless you kind of have some expertise in it already. It's not an easy thing to do. You can start writing blogs. This is another way to increase SEO, right? And not just random blogs, but blogs about your practice, your specialty. This begins helping SEO. And then again, social media, we're not necessarily thinking about YouTube and Instagram and all that and SEO. But when I make a video, I am thinking about the title of the video, what's written in the description, because all that plays into how searchable I am on the internet and what people are looking for, right? I try not to make videos just about things I want to know, but what other people want to know. So again, we're overly simplifying this, but SEO is about being searched and showing up on top results on Google is what we're kind of going for. That is absolutely not a quick one, right? So SEO is going to, that's the long haul for sure. You start working on it, and slowly but surely over time with consistency, you start to build your SEO and drive more traffic to your website. Now, I know I've been talking for 15 minutes. I hope I haven't bored you to death yet. And this is not exhaustive, but these are the main ways that you can make your practice, your product, whatever it is, visible to people. One thing you'll notice is none of it is quick. None of it is meant to be the one and done deal. This all takes time and consistency. I know I said that a bunch of times, but it's just important to know because we can get easily discouraged when we put up a listing on a directory and we don't get any referrals for a month. We try a Google ad and it doesn't work. A lot of these things will yield results over time. And just remember, dip your toes into some of these, right? You don't have to do all of them, but don't just do one. And again, the whole point of this is simply to grow our practice. So as long as your practice starts to grow even a little bit, that's great. Okay. Marketing and making increasing visibility is something we're always working on. All right. So don't get discouraged too quickly. Keep it up. I'm sure you are doing a great job. Yeah, and that's really all I wanted to talk about in today's video. I hope you learned something. I hope you found it helpful. And until next time, I will see you in the next video.